Apple's quarterly results. This video is continuation from yesterday. We talked about the importance of those results and importance of FANG stocks. First thing I wanted to show you that if you've never done it before, if you're actually trying to find the information directly from the company, not an interpretation by other news, usually what you do is you type the company's name and you type investor relations, and you'll get to a special subset of the website where you will have all of the whatever they report with all of their filings with Security and Exchange Commissions and the press release. So if I click here, they released it yesterday after markets closed. That's a sort of like a typical way they do it, so the stock doesn't fluctuate as much during the day. And you'll see the headlines right away. Company beats their revenue, sets a quarter record. And what's interesting to me is they're including forward-looking statements, but they're kind of hard to read. There's like not a single space in the paragraph. But if you're really following the company and you're really trying to understand what is going on, you should be reading that. And if there are footnotes, you should be reading this as well. So again, if that's the first time you're looking at it, what might be confusing to you is that it sets a quarter, like a record ever. They brought in $64.7 billion in revenues in one quarter. Like a lot of companies will never even cost that much in their whole lifetime. But when we look at the stock price, it went down. Like it went down by more than 5%. Which is significant for a bigger stock that it like influences a lot of the Nasdaq and S&P 500. So for you to understand why is it happening and should you be worried and how is the company doing, you have to click on the financial statements and see them yourself. So I want to look at them right now from the way I evaluate Apple. And as I always say, I'm interested in a clear strategy of growth in operational cash flows. That's what interests me. So firstly, what usually goes is profit and loss statement. And you can see here it says unaudited. As we talked yesterday, the quarterly statements are typically unaudited. Sometimes they are. But we take those numbers at the face value. So we start with sales. You'll see the products and you will have comparison year over year with the same quarter. And for Apple, this is actually Q4 because that's how Apple's fiscal year goes. You'll see the products drop down a little bit, but then the services went up. And that's what made them record revenue in the total net sales. You'll see it's slightly higher than it was year over year, which is pretty magnificent thinking about it. That's like a 3 months of total pandemic that the services managed to make up the drop from the product sales. Now the product sales, we're talking about iPod and iPhones and Macs, and even without pandemic, we already knew that people are not upgrading the iPhones every year. The innovation in iPhones are not as it was used to be before. Same with like Macs, like probably people are not buying desktops as much. So that kind of that category was sliding down anyways without the pandemic. Maybe pandemic actually helped them because if people are working from home, perhaps they needed like an extra desktop, for example. But where they're smart is they introduce the services like iCloud and Apple Plus TV, and they're trying to bundle that with the devices, and that category is growing. So we have like cost of sales, which is very similar, very consistent, which I like. Same with services. The profit margins are obviously higher on services because they're not as tangible as producing like a Mac on iPhone. They're investing in R&D, very consistent, and finally we get the earnings per share. And if we talked yesterday that analysts were expecting 71 cents, we got 74, so the stock price should have went up, but it didn't. And if you go by sales by category, that will kind of explain to you why the price did not go up. It actually went down. So. And again, you can look at it and understand it by just straight up looking at financials yourself and then looking at any interpretations, because unless you're looking at the numbers yourself, somebody can present it like and slice it so many different ways. So when we look at the net sales by category, you'll see that the number one product that brings most amount of revenue, especially in a historic sense, more than anything else, sort of like combined before like the services here, is the iPhone. And the iPhone dropped from previous year, and I'm sure if we look at more quarters, it was dropping as well. And the reason it is dropping is that because there's not as much innovation. The older devices are still good. Like I'm trying to see where my phone is for the camera here, but I still have iPhone 7 because it works perfectly fine. I didn't need to upgrade it. I will upgrade it to iPhone 12 because I need a better camera. But this is what's going on here, and this is what Wall Street or whoever is buying it doesn't like. They don't like the drop in iPhone sales because Macs went up. So again, this is like working from home. People need desktops. Perhaps that's what pandemic really helped them. The iPad sales went up. They introduced new iPad sales. Wearable and home accessories, also like all AirPods. You know, this is growing business for them. And obviously services went up. But because the iPhones dropped down, Wall Street doesn't like it, the price went down. My personal opinion about that's not a huge deal. Because even though that cycle of upgrades became longer, people that have iPhone 7 or 8, even though 12 is not that revolutionary, they might still upgrade just for the camera or for battery life. So it's not going to be as of exciting product in coming years, and the competitors will slow down as well. But it will be like a stable product with stable revenue, because people will always be, somebody will be on the upgrade cycle. And when you're growing revenue in wearables and services like in a high pace, that can make up for the loss of revenue in the iPhones. So balance sheet is looking great. I don't really need to look at it, but basically they have like $143 billion in like cash here, and then there's another $100 billion in marketable securities, which is good just as cash. They don't have as many liabilities. This is one of the best or the best balance sheets you'll see. You're not worried about the liquidity issues with Apple. And again, for me, the most exciting part is the cash flows. Cash flow is king. So if you look at this quarter, they generated 80 plus, like almost $81 billion in operating cash flow activities. And as we talked in previous videos, it is different from net income because you gotta add certain things back in, like depreciation, and you gotta subtract like based on, again, how the cash goes in. But that really shows me that they're not just making money on paper like say Netflix does. They're actually making money for reals that's coming into their bank account. And then, you know, they're investing. They're pretty standard with the R&D investment, which is shown profit and loss, and you'll see this in investing activities. So for me, as a Apple sort of long-term investor, reviewing this quarterly statement, I'm pretty happy. I have zero reasons to think that there is some red flags and I need to start thinking about selling the stock. In opposite, I'm thinking right now that because the stock is so down, and I know that there is really, like, objectively, except the drop in iPhone sales, which I think would have happened anyways, pandemic or not pandemic, there's no reason for it to be down. So I would actually consider buying more of Apple stock today than I thought about it before. And this is how, like, very quickly in 5-6 minutes you can review quarterly statements by yourself, and then you can read the news and see what other smart people think about it. Thank you for watching. If you watched all the way till the end, and if you enjoy those kind of videos, please consider subscribing to our channel, because we cover everything from like stock market to how to save money on your home insurance, how to use HELOC for your advantage, and credit card points. Thank you, until the next time.